What's up everybody? I have a brand new What's for Dinner video for you today. I am showing 7 meals that my family had over the past 2 weeks, and I am really excited to share them with you. I hope you enjoy them. They are really good family favorites that are delicious, and even your kids will like them. I think my favorite meal was the last one of this video, so stick around and see what I made at the end of the week. All right, let's get into it. To start things off, we are going to have some simple pan-fried chicken with some chicken rice and some canned green beans and Sister Schubert rolls on the side. I'm just taking a box of the chicken rice that I get from Aldi. I think this is like Aldi's brand of rice-a-roni, and I am melting some butter and then cooking it up until it's golden brown. Then that's when I'll add the water and the seasoning packet, and I'll just cook it according to the directions on the back of the box. In the back there you see a pot with a can of green beans that I've seasoned up just a little bit with some Kinder's The Blend seasoning, which is just salt, pepper, and garlic powder. And then I'm going to get started on my chicken. So I just drizzled some olive oil in the bottom of the pan and then added some thinly sliced chicken breasts to the pan. And then I'm going to season it with some Kinder's The Blend seasoning, and this is just salt, pepper, and garlic powder. I think I already said that, but we really like it. I really like it because it's all the seasonings I use in one container. So I live in Florida, and it's still pretty warm here. I live in northern Florida, but it is starting to cool off just a little bit, and that is giving me major fall vibes, even though cooling off is like in the 70s. So anyway, I wanted some chicken pot pie, and I decided to try this recipe that I found online. I thought it would be really good. My husband really enjoyed it, but I have to say it wasn't my favorite. It was good, but not my favorite. So I'm just starting out by cooking some chicken breasts. They are thinly sliced chicken breasts that I'm just going to saute in my pan with a little bit of olive oil and some Kinder's seasoning. That is the blend seasoning. I'm probably going to use it in almost every video because I really like it, because salt, pepper, and garlic all in one container. So made it super easy. So once it's done cooking on one side, I'm going to flip it over, and when it's all done cooking, I'm going to let it rest and then chop it up into little bite-sized pieces. So now I'm going to dice up an onion. I'm going to dice it up pretty small to saute it in the pan that I cooked the chicken in. And in that pink bowl on the side is, I think, about 2 cups of the potatoes Aubree. Has like the onions and the peppers and the potatoes, like for hash browns, except I'm not using it for hash browns. In the recipe it says to leave it out and defrost it. I'm not sure if I defrosted it enough, but it was sitting out for at least 45 minutes, so I'm not sure. But I did feel like the potatoes weren't cooked enough. Like, they were warm, but I would have liked them just a little bit more cooked, if that makes any sense. So anyway, I'm just going to finish dicing up this onion and saute it in the pan. That's what you see on the left. And right now I am spraying a baking dish, and I am going to take a full sheet of crescent rolls, and I am just going to press them together. Now, these aren't real crescent rolls. They're like the Aldi brand, so they don't have like the crescent roll sheets. I've never bought those before, but this worked just fine as it is. I'm sure it would be easier to buy the sheet, but whatever, this is what I had. And then you're going to bake that in the oven for I'm not sure exactly how long. I'm going to post the recipe in the description box down below, and it'll tell you exactly what to do. So now it's time to make my mixture. I am just adding my diced up chicken to my sauteed onions, and then I'm going to put in the defrosted potatoes Aubree that I had on the side, and also a bag of frozen peas and carrots. I'm going to end up transferring this to a bigger pan because the one I had just wasn't big enough for what I had to do. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get the sauce part of this on camera. I'm not sure what happened, but I can't find the footage. So I added some cream of chicken soup and I believe some chicken broth. I'm not sure, but again, the recipe is going to be in the description box down below, so you can check out exactly what to put in it. Once the first layer of the crescent rolls is done baking, I'm going to add my mixture on top of it and then add a second layer of crescent rolls and bake it again. And then that's it. It was so easy. This was good. Like I said, my husband really enjoyed it. It just wasn't my favorite. And this is how it looked when it came out of the oven, nice and golden brown. So my husband was sweet enough to film this for me. I was getting ready for work and he was preparing the pulled pork, and you'll hear me in the background realizing what he's doing, and I was just so tickled that he would do that for me and get it on camera. So he's just showing you the spices that he's using, and I think it's like the Kinder's the blend. He used some pickle juice from the Aubree German pickles and some other things.
I am.
Oh my god, I got the best things ever. Like legit. You are amazing. So we just cooked that in the crock pot on low for about 8 to 10 hours and then shredded it up. It was so good, and added some barbecue sauce on top. We also paired it with some fresh steamed broccoli and some french fries. I don't know what kind of french fries those are, but they were pretty good. The next recipe I have to share with you is chicken fajitas with homemade potato wedges. I have never made homemade potato wedges, but it was super easy and they were very good. So I'm glad I definitely gave this a try, and I will be cooking them again soon. I just take some russet potatoes and I cut them up like I'm doing now, I believe into eighths, so that they have that potato wedge shape. Then I'm going to drizzle some olive oil on top, as well as some salt, pepper, and garlic powder. and mix it up and put it on a sheet pan. I believe I baked it at 425 for about 30 minutes, but you need to check that because it might not be quite that long, but I think it was 425 for 30 minutes. You could also Google how to make potato wedges in the oven, and they will give you some timing and degrees for you. Anyway, I'm just situating them on a pan, a sheet pan to bake in the oven. Now I am going to cook my chicken. So I took some chicken breasts and I just sliced them into strips, and I am going to saute them with some olive oil, salt, pepper, and garlic powder. I just wanted to season the meat just a little bit. I know I'm going to be adding the fajita seasoning packet later, but it just felt wrong not to put any seasoning on the chicken while I cooked it. While chicken is cooking, I am going to cut up my bell pepper and my onion. So this is how I clean my bell pepper. I just cut it in half and just kind of like pull the seeds and like the top part off, and then cut my bell pepper into strips. Then I am going to slice my onion. I don't want to dice it for fajitas. I want it to be in like strips like the bell pepper is. So once the chicken is done cooking, I am going to put it in a bowl off to the side and let it rest. And then I am going to add my bell peppers and onions to the same pan. And I end up adding some more olive oil just to make sure that it has enough. And once that is finished cooking, then I add the chicken back in with some water and a fajita seasoning packet. And that's it. It was super easy. So this is how my plate looked at the end. It's not super pretty, but it was really good. I just added some sour cream and cheddar cheese to the top of my fajitas and rolled it up and ate it with my potato wedges. For dinner this night, my husband made some delicious homemade chicken noodle soup using a rotisserie chicken. It was so good. I did not get it on camera. It was a super busy day that day, but maybe I can get him to make it again, and I will definitely film it next time. But it was so good. And if you make chicken noodle soup, try adding rotisserie chicken to it. I think it is a great alternative. Alright, so this night I am making Zuppa Toscana. It is so good. I've made it a few times in the past, but it's been a hot minute since I've made it. So I got this recipe from Natasha's Kitchen, and I am going to link the recipe and her website down below in the description box so you can get all the cooking inspiration that you can ask for. I love watching her videos. They're just so great. So I am just chopping up some bacon to render off in a pan so I can cook the soup in it. Anyway, once the bacon is done cooking, I'm going to take it out, put it in a bowl to set to the side to top my soup later. Then I'm going to add some Italian ground sausage, or some ground Italian sausage. Oh my goodness. And I end up having way too much bacon fat in there to cook it off. I don't know what I was thinking. So I end up adding a paper towel to the pot to soak up some of that bacon fat, and then leave just enough in there for flavor, and then cook the ground beef. Once I cook the ground beef, I'm going to remove the ground beef and then cook my onions in there. While the sausage is cooking, I'm taking about, I don't know, maybe 8 baby red potatoes. Some are bigger, some are smaller, but this is how many I used. And I am thinly slicing them up so that when I put them in the soup, they cook quickly. And I think that's how it is at Olive Garden. Honestly, I'm not sure because I've never had this at Olive Garden, but I know this is a really delicious soup. So I highly recommend this recipe. So I'm just gonna slice those up pretty thin into like half moon shaped pieces, and yeah. Once my onions are cooked up, I add quite a bit of garlic, minced garlic, to the pot, probably about 2 tablespoons. And I'm just gonna let it cook for a little bit. I do not want to burn the garlic because that gives it a very bitter flavor. And this is where I'm going to add the chicken stock in. And I think I use like 1.5 cartons. I'm not sure. Again, check the recipe. That's where you'll find all the good information. Once this, oh, and I added some water too. Once this comes to a boil, that's when I'm going to add in my potatoes. And I'm going to let that boil probably for about 15 minutes until the potatoes are fork tender. And this is when I add my ground Italian sausage back into the soup. And I give that a stir, and now I'm going to add my kale. Now I buy my kale already pre-cut up, pre-washed, pre-cut up. That way I just have to add it to my soup. But I did notice a lot of pieces that had like the tough, what is it, like the core, or like, you know, that middle part that's not leafy, it's just like the very fibrous part of the leaf. I tried to cut that off of most of it because it wouldn't have been pleasant to eat that middle piece. So that like softens pretty quickly once it is added to the hot broth, and I am just gonna let that cook up for a little bit, and once it is wilted, I am going to add some heavy whipping cream. soup has come to a boil, I know it is done. The kale is nice and soft, the potatoes are ready to eat, and the broth is delicious. So that soup, so good. I've made it before where it's a little bit thicker. I don't know where the recipe is for that, but this was definitely brothy, but so good, and definitely worth a try. I highly recommend this recipe. My husband picked up a nice soft loaf of Italian bread for dinner, so I am just going to cut that up so we can dip it into our broth, and I am going to top our soup with some Parmesan cheese and some bacon that we had rendered up at the beginning. And this was such a great meal for that day. It had been raining, and it was perfect for, I believe this was a Wednesday night. I also made a cake this night. It was a funfetti cake. I've shared this on my channel before, but it is such a simple and delicious dessert to have. So I am just going to follow the directions on the back of the box. Although it does say to add 4 egg whites, I just added the whole egg because I didn't want to deal with that mess, and it turned out good, just the way it was. I've done it with just egg whites, and to me, they taste the same. So to each their own, but I just added the whole egg. Then I am going to just mix it up and bake it in the oven in 2 round pans because my husband doesn't like me baking it in a rectangle baking dish. I don't know why, but he likes that circular cake. So once it's done baking and I give it time to cool, I'm just going to frost it up and sprinkle the crushed Oreo cookies on top. And that's what we had for dessert that night. It was a great night. So we had a bunch of pulled pork left over from last week, and I froze it so it wouldn't go bad. I pulled it out this morning, or the morning that you're watching this video anyway, and defrosted it to make a pulled pork mac and cheese. So I am just taking about 2 cups of heavy whipping cream and adding about a cup of shredded cheddar cheese and a cup of pepper jack cheese to the hot heavy whipping cream. Now, so I'm just flying by the seat of my pants for this recipe, and it wasn't thick enough. I ended up adding a whole nother 8 ounces of shredded Colby Jack cheese. It still wasn't thick. I just did not want to have Velveeta. I was tired of having Velveeta mac. I wanted to have like shredded cheese type of mac. It did have a thicker, it wasn't like soupy, but it wasn't like thick and creamy like Velveeta is. So anyway, it wasn't a total fail. I boiled up about 2 cups of elbow macaroni and drained it, and then added our leftover pulled pork to the pot and just mixed it up. My plan was to bake it and add some cheese on top and make it ooey gooey and so delicious, but I just ran out of time. I think at this point it was past 7 o'clock and we were ready to eat. So I just mixed it all together and then added the sauce on top and warmed the rest of the Italian bread that we had from the night before in the oven for a little bit and sliced that up. And that is what we had for dinner. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite, I have to be honest. I don't know if it was the sauce or if I didn't bake it. I mean, I feel like I wanted it to taste like something else is why I think I didn't enjoy it as much. The sauce did have a really good flavor. I just don't think it was thick enough, maybe. So I don't know, maybe next time I'll make sure to bake it and add some cheese on top, and that'll probably make it really good. My husband did add some Duke's barbecue sauce. I added a little bit to the macaroni, but he added some more on top of his plate when he ate it. And that's what we had for dinner that night. And finally, our last meal of the video is some mushroom Swiss burgers. So I'm just taking some baby Bella mushrooms and I am slicing them up. I did take a paper towel and wipe off, to clean them up. I heard that you're not supposed to like rinse them off because the mushrooms are spongy and they absorb the water. So anyway, I never clean them with water. I just take a paper towel or a damp paper towel and wipe them off. So anyway, I'm just slicing these mushrooms up and then I'm going to saute them with about 2 tablespoons of butter. And I'm going to end up adding the blend seasoning on top after they've been cooking for a little bit. I heard that you are not supposed to add salt to mushrooms when you first start cooking them because I think it makes them like express water. So I don't know. I end up adding it just a little bit later and that's fine. So now I'm just going to add some hamburger patties to a hot pan. I added some Kinder's, the blend seasoning, on top of the patties and, put them face down on the hot pan. So these are fresh hamburger patties from Publix and they were so good, so good. The past couple times we've had burgers, we've had frozen patties, and these do not compare at all. They are just like way above and beyond. We were so happy with them. So anyway, once they are done cooking on that one side, I flip them over. And 2 of them were not done, so I let those finish cooking on the first side. And then I'm going to get my tomato sliced up. I just sliced up 1 because my son doesn't like tomatoes on his burger. And then I have some iceberg lettuce, just enough for me and my husband to put on our cheeseburgers. Once the burgers are ready, I flip those other 2 over and now I'm going to add 2 pieces of sliced cheese to my husband's burgers and then a piece of sliced cheese to my burger and a piece of American cheese to my son's burger. And I'm just going to let that melt. And I don't know if you can tell, but there is grease flying everywhere. These were, I don't know, there was a lot of fat in those burgers, but that must be why they were so good because they were delicious. Anyway, once all the cheese has melted, I am going to remove the 2 burgers, my son's and mine, to a plate, and then I am going to prepare my husband's. So I'm taking some pretzel buns out and I am going to put my husband's burgers on those buns. I ended up microwaving the tops of the buns because I knew that the patty would warm the bottom of it, but the tops just seemed kind of hard. So I microwaved those for about 10 seconds, and I am topping the burger with the sauteed mushrooms, and then I'm just gonna add some lettuce and tomato, mayonnaise, and ketchup and mustard to my husband's. Mine just had mushrooms, lettuce, tomato, and mayonnaise. It was such a good night. Thank you so much for watching this week's What's for Dinner video. I really hope you enjoyed it and found some dinner inspiration for you and your family. If you did, please give this video a like and consider joining my YouTube family. I would so love to have you here. I will see you guys next time. Bye!